It's time for a wellness revolution. Brought to you by Hotze Health Wellness Center. Honest discussion on maintaining health and wellness naturally to enjoy a better quality of life.
He's the doctor fighting to let you keep your doctor.
Now, Dr. Stephen Hotze. Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution podcast is brought to you by Physicians Preference Pharmacy, formerly Hotze Pharmacy.
Welcome to Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution. I'm Stacey Banfield here with Dr. Stephen Hotze. And if you haven't downloaded our podcasts, you can do so at hotzepodcast.com. That's Hotze podcast.com. We have such a great guest story for you today, Valerie Diaz. She's been a longtime guest here at the center, and it really is amazing at what a dark place she came from and where she is today. I know you will enjoy the show. Valerie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Stacey, and thank each one of you for joining us today on Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution. Now, I believe that you need a doctor and a staff of professionals who have the wherewithal and the ability and the know-how to coach you on a path of health and wellness naturally. So as you mature, you've got energy, you've got vibrancy, you've got vitality, and you're enthusiastic about life, and you're down to an ideal body weight, and you feel great. I don't care if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, you ought to be brimming with energy. And that's what we want to help you do. And that's why you're listening to the program, because we're going to visit with you today and give you some encouragement, because we have as our guest Valerie Diaz. And Valerie is a realtor here in the Katy area of Harris County in the western side, and it probably goes in, she goes into Fort Bend and other all over the county, but she's primarily out here on the west side of Harris County, and she's got a real estate management company for rental properties as well as selling real estate. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Valerie. Tell me where you grew up.
So I actually grew up here in the Houston area.
Where'd you go to high school?
It was a private school. It was a very small, it was called Disciple Life Christian School.
Right.
On the east side of town.
Okay.
In the Houston area.
Good. And so you finished high school, and then how did you end up out here? Did you go off to college after that?
I did. I went to University of Houston.
Right.
So I graduated from there. And
what did you take your degree in?
Business administration.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how did you end up in real estate?
I started whenever I was 18 years old. So I've been in the business for quite some time. But even at the beginning stages, I put myself through college. So that's
tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
So you're industrious, and you take personal initiative, and that's what we need in this country is more people like you that are willing to take personal initiative, get the job done instead of having their hand out. So I admire you for that. Mm-hmm. So tell us what was going on. You've been a guest of ours for the last 10 years.
Correct.
At the Hotze Health Wellness Center. So tell our listening audience a little about some of the problems that you've had.
And I'm here to share my story, and I'm hoping that it could help other people with issues that they've had, because and I'm so grateful that I came across Hotze. Thankful to my aunt that told me about Hotze. But way before, probably in my teenage years, I had a lot of issues with different things, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I would have issues with heavy depression, brain fog, not being able to process certain information. Even at one point, I just couldn't understand what was wrong with me, because I would go to traditional doctors and they would normally prescribe medication to you, and it would mask a lot of issues, and they wouldn't really get to the root cause of it.
So what kind of issues, what kind of medication were they prescribing? Antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, or sleep medication?
A lot of it was antidepressants, because I had a lot of depression. And,
right.
And so that would be one of the things that they would mostly prescribe for me.
And so you started taking those antidepressants in high school or in college? Or
in high school.
Okay.
I remember it in high school. Yeah, definitely.
Now, did you notice any change at all? Did you have problems with your menstrual cycles, any premenstrual symptoms? Do you remember back then? Mood swings, fluid retention, weight gain, headaches, breast tenderness, anything like that?
I didn't have any issues with that. I just know that I would have, like, one of the examples would be I would would have a conversation with somebody and I would forget what I was supposed to say next. So I would avoid having conversations with people because I would be very forgetful, just more than the normal. At one point, and this is just even going more personal, but even at one point, I just, you start thinking, it's like, why am I forgetting so many different things? And I didn't know what the term was, but now here at Hotze, you refer to it as brain fog. I asked my mom at the time, I'm like, Mom, can you take me to see, to check my IQ? Get my IQ tested, because I felt like either I was mentally unable to process information. And so obviously I went to go get the IQ tested and I was perfectly fine. I was like, oh, what a relief. Well, thank you. Thanks for giving me at least some positive information there. And so, and at 21, because, I had been suffering with everything since I was probably 11 or 12. So ever since I could remember, I've been suffering with it. So at 21, I was done. And I actually attempted to, remove myself from this world. And thankfully I was unsuccessful. So I was that bad that I couldn't resolve my issues. So I got to that point in my life that
it wasn't worth living it. If you
yeah,
couldn't resolve your issues.
I wasn't, wasn't worth living in this world. So I still, thankfully that resulted in not having to go through that. But a few years later, I got married, to a great guy. His name is Ernest Diaz. And within 2 years, I had a child. And then I started having even more issues after that. It just kind of more aggressive. And at that point, I'm like, I have to do something. I can't just bear living day to day. And that's whenever my aunt told me about Hotze.
So that would have been what year? That would have been back in
that was
18 or 08 or 09?
2008. At the end of 2008. It was October 2008.
And you would have been how old at that time?
I was 28.
Okay. So you're a very young woman. You ought to be in the prime of life at 28 and feeling like $1 million. And
yeah.
You didn't. Energy was down, weren't thinking clearly. Moods were obviously down and depressed. Do you have any problem with weight at that time?
Not an issue with weight. I mean, maybe I could lose a couple pounds, but not.
Let me ask you, just curious, what was your eating profile like then?
Everything that I wanted to eat, I would eat.
Which was primarily what? Was it wheat-based products?
Yeah, just carbohydrates and just different things. But yeah, I would eat whatever I wanted to eat.
Okay. So you came in 2008, and you'd seen how many physicians prior to that?
Oh, I couldn't even remember, but many. I mean, I would say 6 to 8 different physicians.
Okay. And for the most part, their recommendation was take antidepressants.
Yes. Take antidepressants. Anytime I would get sick, they would also prescribe antibiotics. Right. And I would take them all the time because whenever I was a teenager, I smoked. And so I would always get sick. And antibiotics was just kind of a normal routine throughout the year. Okay. So that didn't help. Okay, so you came in. What was different? What did you find different when you came here to the Hotze Health Wellness Center from other phrophysicians' offices? Your center just takes care of getting to the root cause of the issue, and you address symptoms instead of just going based on blood test. Yeah.
Well, and this is really an important differentiation that we have. Nobody is depressed, has brain fog, doesn't think clearly, has low energy because they have low levels of antidepressants in their body. Antidepressants aren't a solution to that. That is simply trying to mask the symptoms. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's like a Band-Aid. It doesn't, and frankly, in most people, it worsens the problems. So if you don't address the problems, and remember, all these drugs, the antidepressants, and all these drugs that pharmaceutical companies produce and doctors prescribe are toxins. They make you toxic. So you get sicker quicker. They don't resolve the problem, and frankly, they make the problem a lot worse. So if you don't get to the underlying cause of your fatigue, your inability to think clearly, your depression, and any other symptoms you have. If we don't address that, we haven't made a diagnosis. We've simply labeled your symptoms as the diagnosis and treated your symptoms rather than treating the underlying problem. So when you came in, you saw Dr.
Ellsworth.
Mm-hmm. And how was the visit? What was it? Was there any difference in your visit with him than you'd had with any other physician?
Oh, yes. I mean, of course, it's an incredible experience coming through the center, and you still have your doubts,
Because you've seen 6 or 8 doctors. You go,
of course,
just another doctor, and
as a patient, kind of going through different regimens, and you have your doubts that if this is actually going to be effective and if it's actually going to work, because you feel like you're very hopeless, whenever you're at that point where you've already gone through different routes and it just doesn't work. And, and at the same time, I was very hopeful that I had finally come to a place that could actually help me. So I was in between, and I had heard about different, testimonials from different people, and I could identify with other people. So I was like, okay, well, maybe, this could actually work. And I'm like, it's definitely worth a try.
And your aunt had done well.
Well, actually, my aunt had told me about Hotze, but she hadn't been a patient yet. She had known, I think that she knew of somebody that had come through the center. So that's how I got introduced here. And I remember whenever I came to the center, they tested my body temperature. I was at 95-degree temperature. So it was really
95 degree, and you should be 98.6. That's a classical feature of hypothyroidism, low thyroid. Thyroid enables your cells to produce and use energy. And the excess energy is given off as heat, and that's what gives you body temperature. And if your body temperature is running low, you're just not producing enough energy, enough electrical energy in your body to produce heat. And so you don't run well. And when you don't run well, you don't feel well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Dr. Ellsworth spent an hour or so with you, listened to you, made some recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
I know that he said clinically you have symptoms of hypothyroidism.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to check your blood. But despite whatever the blood test may come back, and by the way, 95% of the time the blood test will come back normal. The blood test is as wide as the Grand Canyon, as tall as the Empire State Building. You can't hardly fall out of it. But if your thyroid level had been up here when you were younger, now it's down here, it could still be within the range. You're going to be 50% decline, and you're going to have 50% less production of energy. So we look at the classical symptoms of hypothyroidism, which you had. Mm-hmm. So I know we started you on some thyroid preparation, and put you on some natural female hormones, got you on a good eating program, and then put you on some vitamins and minerals.
Correct.
Okay. So what happened? How long did you start feeling better? You've been on the program 10 years now, so I've got to believe it's made a difference. So tell me, how long did it take before you started feeling improvement?
Well, it's funny because you and I was very dedicated because I really wanted it to work. And so I was very strict with my diet, and within the first week, maybe 2 weeks, you start receiving some die-off symptoms where you have headaches, and your body's not used to eating so healthy. And so and then after I went through that curve, probably within 2.5, 3 weeks, I started noticing that I was thinking much clearer than I was before. And I was like, wow, I'm starting to feel much better. And then within a month, 2 months, it was like life-changing, completely life-changing, where I'm like, I would always describe myself before, like, I'm not content, I'm not happy. And whenever I'm referring to happiness, it's like you're not satisfied within yourself. It's like something is blocking yourself from being 100% you. And so within a month or two, I started feeling happy in reference to being content with myself. And I had never experienced that before. And to get to that point, I was so excited to feel that way. And it's like I started feeling like I'm supposed to feel. And I just don't, other than that, I don't know how to describe it. Until you get to that point, you just don't know.
Right. Now, prior to this, you were in real estate, right?
Yes.
Okay. How are you doing in your real estate?
Well, I had been in real estate for probably 8 or 9 years by then. And I was okay. Average. And I had my struggles. within probably about 4 months, maybe 5 months from visiting Hotze, my business. I mean, just the fact that I was able to think clearly. I set up our property management side of our business in March of 2009, and the business just increased dramatically. I mean, we have over 200 active property management properties that we manage, and that's after selling properties and things like that over the last 10 years. And last year, we sold $13 million in real estate. So, I mean, we stay really busy. We have a team of, I believe, either 7 or 8 members at the moment. And our business is called Sugarland Property Management, and we're the Diaz team. So it's sold by Diaz.com. And we're with Keller Williams. And so we've been there for many years, and we wouldn't be where we are now if it wasn't for coming to Hotze. I mean, I truly believe that, because within a few months of coming here, that's whenever all these plans started to come about. And obviously I had been praying, just to make sure that I was going the right path. And, God just answered my prayer and, led me that way and led me to you. And
so you had one child prior to coming in and had been kind of going downhill, not feeling well. How many children do you have now?
We have 3 now.
You've got 3 children. Mm-hmm. And so over the last 10 years, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being brimming with energy, 0 no energy, how would you rate your overall energy level?
I mean, I am always out and about. If it's not business related, it's with my 3 kids and running around with sports. All my kids are in baseball at the moment. It's the spring season.
Yeah, that's plenty of. I know we had 3 sons in Little League baseball as well, and I coached, so it was busy.
Yeah, Ernest coaches, so
it's fun.
He stays busy too. But I have tons of energy. I mean, I'm able to keep up with everything that I'm supposed to get done, and I have plenty of energy in the evening.
On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being just enthusiastic about life, happy, joyful, how would you, and 0 being depressed, how would you rate your overall moods?
I mean, I would say I'm like 9.5. I mean, I'm pretty up there. And the thing is that for the last 10 years, I mean, obviously life takes its toll on different things and different things that can take place.
Sure.
And it's not all nice and rosy. And even whenever things come about that are negative, I'm still fine. It's not like I get into a depression or I get into a cycle where I mean, for the last 10 years, I've never even thought about antidepressants because there's no need for it. And just the fact that I could, get to that, take care of the issues that come about and still be fine. It's just amazing. I don't know how to describe that, but
this is commonly what we see. Once, and the credit first, I'm going to say, Valerie, goes to you. You decided to do a 180 and take charge of your health. You knew that you were going down a path. You tried 6 or 8 conventional docs. It wasn't going anywhere. It was just more antidepressants, and you took some advice and decided to make a change. Mm-hmm. And then you came in and you got up on our recommended program, which is a healthy eating lifestyle. Mm-hmm. We don't recommend any diets. We just recommend you learn how to eat healthy and learn how to eat to live rather than live to eat. And so that's cutting out the wheat, corn, potatoes, and rice as much as possible. Initially, we do that for 3 months, but that's a big part of the program. Second thing is replenish your hormones. Put the hormones back in your body that are declining, replenish those with bioidentical hormones, get on some good vitamins and minerals, and an exercise program. And you've done that. And it's made a difference in your life. So let me ask you, prior to this, your work was average, right? Mm-hmm. You were performing at an average level. How would you say you're performing now? It sounds like you're superior. I mean, it sounds like you got to go and concern in really doing well, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Now, how was your relationship back with your child when you weren't feeling well? How did that go?
Oh, back then, I wasn't functioning to the point. I mean, I I wouldn't have conversations with him, you know, like things that you're supposed to do as a mom and just everyday activity. I would stay at home. It was different because I couldn't really function too well. So I felt like I had to make a drastic change, because how am I going to be a great mother if I'm not feeling well myself?
Right.
So I really feel like I didn't help him with the developmental stages early on that I should have.
Right.
You know.
And with your husband, how was prior to getting yourself up and healthy again, how did that affect your relationship with your husband?
I mean, he's always been very supportive. But of course our relationship has increased. I mean, has helped a lot since coming here. But he was always very supportive.
And how did you, when you weren't feeling well, how did that make you feel about yourself?
Oh, horrible. Whenever I wasn't feeling well, I mean, you have very low self-esteem.
Right.
You don't feel like you're capable of doing a lot of things, and so you start kind of going inward, avoiding conversations. I would go multiple days without talking to people. I mean, just so many different things of how you live life from back then to how you live life afterwards, after coming here. It's like night and day. You're a completely different person, even though I'm who I am, but you're a completely different person because of the transformational change. And you process things differently, you react to people differently. It's something where once you go through a program like this, you start realizing how you could have been living for the last 15, 20 years. It's like, I wish I would have known about this back in high school,
right,
or early on.
Well, thank God you found out when you found out. I mean, literally, your story, I've heard your story from women at all different ages, at 38, at 48, at 58, at 68, and they've lived a life that has been just has not been a fulfilling, rich, rewarding life because they didn't feel well, and they were put on a host of drugs by various conventional doctors, psychotropic drugs, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, sleep medication, anti-inflammatory medication, anti-diabetic medication, anti-hypertensive medication, you name it. All these drugs, and they made them more toxic, and they didn't do well. So I congratulate you, and I want you all to consider following Valerie's path. Take charge of your health. Do a 180 and take charge of your health. That's so very important because it will make all the difference in your life. Now, it was an investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But think about it. I mean, how do you think that investment, and some people have said, well, you don't take insurance and it's expensive to come in. Well, amortize that, what you paid coming in over the last 10 years. Whatever the price point at that point, whether it was several $1,000s. Let's say it was $5,000. Amortize that over 10 years. That's $500 a year. That's $1.25 a day.
Mm-hmm.
Has it been worth the investment?
Oh, yes.
It's like investment in rental property that keeps going up in price. And you've done well. Of course, it's when you make an investment in the health, that's the most important investment you can make, because it won't only help you in your work and your business, it helps you in your social life with your family, with your spouse, and the way you think about yourself. So now when you think about yourself, how do you think about yourself? Is down, poor me, I'm not bright, I can't do things well? Or how do you feel about yourself?
I mean, I'm very confident. I mean,
makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference in reference to actually getting in line with how you're supposed to be feeling.
What we do here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center is partner with you so that you can have a life-changing health experience. Get your life back. Be brimming with energy, full of vitality, and have enthusiasm for life. Isn't that what you want? And if you do want that, I want to encourage you to contact us here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center, and let's see what we can do to partner with you to get you in that point in life where you're brimming with energy and enthusiastic about your life, just like Valerie. So, Valerie, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. That's just a wonderful story. I'm so happy for you, and I'm proud of you, and thank you for sharing this with others, because I know there's literally thousands out in the listening audience that want to have hope that things can change and get better, and thank you for sharing with them how it can.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much for joining us today on Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution.
A special thanks to Physicians Preference Pharmacy, formerly Hotze Pharmacy, proud sponsor of Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution podcast.
Information provided on this radio program is neither intended nor implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice and is not intended to replace the services of a physician, nor does it constitute a doctor-patient relationship. You should not use information from this radio program to diagnose or treat a health problem or disease without consulting with a qualified healthcare provider. If you have or suspect you have an urgent medical problem, promptly contact a professional healthcare provider or call 911. Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution radio program advises you to always seek the advice of a physician or other qualified health provider prior to starting any new treatment or with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Any application of the recommendations from this radio program is at the listener's discretion.